What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. I wanted to talk to you guys about identifying your triggers and why it's important when dealing with mental health. I learned that recently. I realized, like, when my mind would start to spiral, how I shared my video about the suicidal thoughts that I have had for so many years. I realized there's a reason why I'm having those thoughts. Okay. It doesn't have to do with me not taking my medication on time. It doesn't have to do with, some people in mental health will say, no, take your medication. It's very important, which I do feel is important, but I'm also on both ends. But we'll talk about that later. Anyway, but I feel like it's deeper. It's a rooted issue, and I've had it for a very long time. And that rooted issue is the subconscious thoughts that have been wavering in my mind for so long on a consistent basis that, when something happens, I will always go back into my past. Like, I'll be so triggered to where I'll go back into thinking, oh, I'm not wanted, or I'm not loved, or I'm being replaced. And when I was able to identify my triggers and notice that, okay, now I can see why I overthink. Now I can see why I spiral. And I'm so quick to really just get a hold of it that I stop and I start to have an inner conversation with myself. So for anybody who is dealing with overthinking, for anyone who is dealing with their triggers or things that you might see in your everyday life, try to identify what makes you get triggered. Try to identify, even if it's a small thing. I had to even, communicate this with my friend and tell them, like, hey, I understand that I might be that funny person that makes you laugh all the time, or you might think I'm a little bit overly sensitive, but I am trying to work on identifying my triggers and being able to, communicate that with myself as well with others, to let them know, like, hey, this is something I'm working on. This is something that I'm learning to be able to not get so upset so quickly and start to spiral and start to overthink things and assume that what's happening in my life is the same thing that happened to me before in my past. Okay, you following me? So now that I'm able to notice, like when I was telling you guys, when I used to write those nasty things about myself when I was a child, those were things that I started to believe subconsciously over time. And because I started to believe those subconsciously over time, my mind started to have this subconscious unwavering thoughts that would just be there, and they would just come and just when something would happen, I'll use an example. Okay, for example, boom, let's say this. Okay, there was a girl that I liked, right? And she, she said, she's not interested, right? She doesn't want me, right? Okay, cool. So when she told me she was genuinely not interested, I was totally understandable towards this. The old me would have looked at it. At first, it was like, oh, there was that trigger, like something was like, oh, you're not wanted, you're not loved, you're not da 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 da. And that's not the case, though. So these subconscious thoughts that I've had for so many years is the reason that I start to overthink things. So when I start to overthink something, and I assume that if I get rejected, or if someone says no to me, I'm automatically saying, or if my friend is hanging out with someone else, I'm automatically being replaced, or I'm being rejected. Oh, that's a bad thing. Oh, that means you're not loved. That means you're not wanted. Your friend's hanging out with someone else. That means they're replacing you. But that's not true. So that's when the mind will start to spiral out of control. So now that I have a hold on that and I'm able to identify that, I can have those conversations with myself, because there is a part of us where they call it the ego, and I'll make a separate video from that. But there is a part of us that is trying to pull us back into that comfort zone. Now I'm stepped outside of my comfort zone, waking up every morning, reading for 15 minutes, giving myself me time, whether that's me cleaning up parts of my room, what I'm saying, trying to straighten out my room, because I have to straighten out my room, or whether that's me journaling, whether that's me, being honest with myself and being honest with my feelings and emotions, not so quick to give myself to the world, but give myself to me. Because a lot of us are scared of rejection. A lot of us believe that when we're rejected, we're not good enough, but that doesn't mean that you're not good enough. Sometimes the person that's rejecting you is actually blessing you. And the reason I say they're blessing you is because a rejection is a blessing in disguise. Sometimes you have to look at it as, okay, this person said they don't want to mess with me. They don't want to fuck with me. Okay, cool. Maybe sometimes that person doesn't think they're good enough for you. Have you ever thought about that? But that's when I go back. I go back. Or like something like, for example, I was assuming the worst of my worst of my job or something like that. And I started to spiral, and I had to tell myself, I said, no, this is not what this means. Get it. I had to tell myself, get it together. So it's really about really changing your thought process and really getting down to the root of the problem of why you overthink, why you overanalyze, and why does your mind begin to spiral. Okay. So yes, medication for people. I'm not saying for people who are in mental health, I'm not saying to throw away your medications. Absolutely not. Take your medication. Your medication is not curing you. A lot of people do have this thing where they think that, okay, the medication's not curing you, so why are you taking it? It's helping you to regulate. But even still, some people may not believe that you need medication in order to regulate how you feel. And, like I said, I'm on both ends. But at the same time, I am taking my medication because it is important to me. And I feel like my medication is, helping me. But it's not just the medication that's going to be the thing that's going to cure me. It's not going to cure me. What's going to help me is me getting to the root of the problem and identifying what is going on and being able to be honest with myself and bring it to the surface. Do not allow, when you get triggered, do not put it under the rug. When you get triggered, even this goes when you want to manifest something, whatever is happening in your life. Sometimes we think that, maybe we might not get that job or this accomplishment. We might not, get promoted or we might, that business might fall apart, whatever the case may be, or you don't have enough money for your mortgage. You're going over bills and stuff. Try to change your mindset. Do not spiral. Get down to the root of the problem. Some things trigger us, and sometimes it could be a test. And the test can really be within ourselves, especially when you're manifesting something. When you're manifesting something, are you going to listen to the circumstances, or are you going to focus on the true outcome and continue to believe and have faith, right? Now, I know. Excuse me. Woo, my nose. Now, I know that this is a handful to swallow. That does not sound right. Handful to take in, which is totally understandable. But really, with people who are dealing with overthinking, try to sit down. Take some I know this may sound very, very cliche, but take in some deep breaths and ask yourself, what do you need right now? And even if that doesn't work, go for a walk. If that doesn't work, go for a run. If that doesn't work, go box. Punch a wall, yell, scream. Go somewhere to the top of the mountain and just scream it out. Because sometimes that's all you really need. Cry it out if you have to. And then ask yourself, why am I feeling the way that I'm feeling? What is causing me to get so angry? What is causing me to get upset? What is causing me to feel these emotions that I'm feeling? It always is at the root.